Well, it's been a long time since I've done a video, so I thought that I would show you how to make a window frame for your cards. I have this sample here. This is the one that I'm going to make for you with just a couple modifications. And if you looked at my blog a couple days ago, you would have seen a card like this. And this one also has a window frame there. It's dimensionalized, so the picture looks recessed in this frame. So we're going to do this one. This uses a lot of old stuff, actually a lot of retired stuff from Stampin' Up, I should say. Uses the Designer Series paper, the Circle of Friendship stamp set, and this toy box stamp set, which is kind of the only boy one I have. And I needed 2 6-year-old birthday cards for this weekend, so that's what prompted this. So I'm going to take my spaceship and my black StazOn ink and stamp it onto some scrap white cardstock. I didn't cut this out, it is literally a piece of scrap. I'm going to let that dry. I'm going to get a blender pen, and I'm using colors from Christina's color inspiration, so 2 birds with 1 stone here. And I always like to start with my lightest color. A lot of people ask me, how do you watercolor? So here's an example. I've squeezed the ink pad together and got some ink on the top part here. I'm going to grab a little bit there and just color in the lights, the feet of the UFO, pick up a little more, and the little antennae for the guy and the ship, I guess. So that's more mustard. So you just brush that off, grabbing some old olive. Now, if you can see my old olive pad, you'll see there's a lot of dark ink in the middle and some lighter ink on the edges. Use that. That's what's going to make your watercoloring look more shaded and maybe more professional, some might say. So I'm kind of grabbing from the edge and pulling out and just rubbing it so I get a lighter shade of the old olive and color that in. You'll see that in a second. And you'll notice as you color with the blender pen, of course, the color gets lighter too onto the cardstock, which is great. It's natural shading for you. Can't get any easier than that. Alright, so now I'm going to go back in and I'm going to pick up some darker ink and do like this little band, I guess, of the UFO. Hopefully 6-year-olds like UFOs. Alright, picking up some more dark ink. So you could potentially get a lot of different shades from one color ink pen. Now the other thing is you don't want to use a blender pen too much. This is Whisper White cardstock, of course, from Stampin' Up. You don't want to keep blendering and blendering and blendering, I call it, because you will pill the paper, and then that's going to ruin the look. So now I'm going to grab some Taken with Teal, and I'm going to get a lot of it because I want the guy to be nice and dark, my Martian in there, and then rub some off on my scratch paper, and then use the lighter shade of it to get the glass of the UFO. And then again, I'm pulling just from the edge here, and I can't leave this guy just hanging in some white space, so I'm going to give him a little bit of a bluish background here. Again, keeping with the colors challenge and the Taken with Teal. Alright, so that's a quick little explanation of how to watercolor with a blender pen. Play with it, get some shades, get some different shades with one color, and you'll be getting more than your money's worth. Alright, putting the blender pen away. Now, to make the frame for this, I've gone ahead and decided that I want to have a pretty thick frame because I want to be able to fit those stars around the edges of my frame. So I want a 1.5 inch square. Stampin' Up doesn't have a 1.5 inch square, or if they do, I don't have it. So what I've done is taken my clear ruler. If you don't have a clear ruler, you need to really get a clear ruler. They're great. My friend gave me this one and I use it literally every time I sit down to stamp. So I took it and I drew an X corner to corner so I could find my center. I knew I want a 1.5 inch square, remember, for my window. So what I did was use my grid paper and put the cardstock there. and use the ruler and use again the grid paper to make sure my ruler's not going crooked. It's nice and straight. And I'm measuring, I found 1.5. So this is 1.5 inches. This is 1.5 inches. I'll do it here. 1.5 inches. Again, just using that grid paper to line up the ruler so I know it's going straight. And then basically I can just connect these dots here. Alright, so hopefully you can see I've got an X with a square in the middle. So now I'm just going to take any square punch, any Stampin' Up! Square punch that you have, and find those pencil lines that you made and punch out that square. Now if your punch gets used as much, can you see that little tiny piece left in there for me to punch? So if your punch gets as much use as mine, you might need to go in and clean up your edges, either with a sanding block or a pair of paper snips. I missed a little tiny bit, but that's alright. I don't think the 6-year-old will mind, right? Okay, so there's my frame. I'm going to grab the star stamp from the toy box stamp set like I had mentioned earlier. I'm going to take the Taken with Teal and just stamp around the frame. Now you could do other things too. You could tie a ribbon around this frame. You could add some embellishments to this frame, whoops, like brads or eyelets or whatnot, because this frame's going to be lifted. So I'm going to take my dimensionals, and this is the back side obviously with the pencil marks, and I'm just taking a dimensional and putting one in the middle of each side. Alright, and then later on I can go ahead and add more dimensionals to my final project if I need to, which I most likely will need to. Because again, I just took a scrap piece. You could cut a white piece of cardstock, maybe, you know, this is 3x3, the saffron is, so maybe 2.5 by 2.5, because you don't really want it to show on the outermost edges. But the way I did it, literally grabbed a piece of scrap, and now I'm just going to put it center. So you'll see that there's a dimensional sticking out here, there's a dimensional sticking out here, but nothing here and here. So later on I'll probably add some more here to finish off the project.